Welcome back, everybody.
Caught me headbanging.
Pat Flynn Show. It's Friday, so we thought
Friday.
we're gonna stream in with some music here. That
It's
is
Friday.
That's my cover of AC/DC's Overdose.
Nice.
One of my
It's gorgeous,
favorite
man.
beat
Awesome.
tracks of AC/DC.
I love it.
They just dude, AC/DC is still rocking, man. They just released a new music video. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And it's
Excellent.
and it looks like it was done with about a $5,000 budget at most. So
Which is to say it's AC/DC.
Which is to say AC/DC is just AC/DC as always,
Yeah.
which is good. So check it out. We wanted to do just real quick. We're going to do a flagship episode on the absolute beginner basics of fitness, fundamentals, healthy eating fundamentals. This will be my hope for this episode, Jim, is like this is the one that we will just point everyone to in the future because pretty frequently we get people who are coming in. Often they might be tuning into our philosophy episodes and they actually say, hey, do you guys have something like that just summarizes how to get started with fitness for beginners? So I figured
I like it.
We actually don't have an episode like that. So let's do it.
We need it.
But let's engage in the dull preliminaries. How are you doing? What's going on?
Good. I mean, it's Friday. We're both pretty frisky. I just told you what I really think of my boss, right?
Yeah, good thing that was off air. Yeah,
that was off air, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we on? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I should say one of my bosses. Right? Anyway, so feeling good, man. Gave a lecture last night to a class at Harvard Divinity, which was like a really great experience. Yeah. So.
Nice. Awesome. Good things happening. And right after this, if you're feeling good after training the body with this podcast, we're going to train the mind. We're going to continue our series on Plato's The Republic. Right after this stream, we're going to switch streams. We're going to break the Ghostbusters rule, switch streams, and talk some philosophy. Yeah.
I tell you, nothing could be more loyal to the legacy of Plato than for us to do some physical training and then some quote unquote musical training, right? Back to back. So let's go.
Okay. He's a big fan of the gymnastics. All right. So Jim, just for people who might not be familiar, I think part of what is kind of cool about us, both of us, is we both were former fat kids, right?
Yeah.
Right. You were kind of a former fat adult, actually, right? For a while.
No, I was in my 30s when the transformation began, right?
And all of that is to say that we've been there, sort of done that. We had lifestyles that were very unhealthy for a while. I grew up very overweight. I was not athletic. You might have been fat, but at least you were athletic. You played football and stuff like that. Yeah. I was not athletic. I was just fat. I just played video games and guitar and read books. I just was not an athlete at all until later in high school when I started getting into martial arts. But even that was kind of a later start to an athletic career than most people take. So we've been there, right? So we were, we had to go from nothing to something, which is always the hardest thing to do. And it's not just getting yourself to do it, but first kind of like figuring out, well, what do I do? And, like you, I'm sure this was the same with you, Jim, but I remember specifically like after I won the wet t-shirt contest among my friends in early high school, which was not the highest of Pat Flynn's achievements, right?
It's not like, you look at it in a different light today than you did then, didn't you?
Yeah, no, right. So like I was like, okay, either I'm going to throw myself off a bridge or I'm going to like figure something out here. So, but the point is like I didn't know anything about being healthy or losing weight, and all I did was I went upstairs in my friend's house, super depressed, and got an orange and sadly peeled that orange and ate it. And that was my first step. Then I went home and was
the wet t-shirt contest like the rock bottom moment for you?
Yeah, that was probably the rock bottom moment. I had a number of moments before that. Like I was never like horrifically bullied. Like I always had friends. I was always kind of funny, right? But I was always the fat friend who was made fun of, right?
Yeah.
Kind of growing up. So it wasn't like hugely traumatic. Maybe it was. Maybe I'm just not admitting how traumatic it was. But like, I had that. Yeah.
My rock. May I do my
we'll share our rock bottom story.
My rock. And if my wife's listened to this, she's gonna laugh because she will remember this evening, right? So, it was a sleepless night following on the downstream consequences of It was chili cheese jalapeno tater tots from Sonic. 2 orders.
This is a good start to a rock bottom moment.
Yeah, and I just that whole night, while dealing with what that had done to me, I was like, this is like suicidal. What am I doing to myself? Right? Like I can't even. I'm treating myself so badly. I can't even sleep at night after what I've done to myself. Right? And that was supposed to be my reward. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Things are inverted here. Something's wrong. Right?
Yeah.
This is not good living.
if you don't laugh, you'll cry. We were crying at the time, but we're laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, right?
Yeah.
So that was your rock bottom moment. That's pretty good. I see somebody commented, Pat, you need to share a picture of Chubby Pat. I've got them, man. I'll put them up. They're on my blog. If you really want to track them down, you can find them there somewhere. So we both had our rock bottom.
I think there's a picture of Jim the fat person on my website. So, so
yours is really impressive because it's so stark.
I have people write me and ask me if I faked that picture, not the after picture. They've asked me if I faked the before picture.
I've had similar comments as well. I used to be quite fat. And so is my family. Like I have family members that are horribly morbidly obese, right? So it runs just a lot of stuff runs in my family, a lot of stuff. We won't get into that now. We both had our rock bottom moments, and then kind of from there you have this sort of you have this existential crisis, if you want to call it that. I ate my sad orange, and then I decided I got to do something. I went into my basement, and of course my mom was sort of a lifelong fad dieter, right? So she had a million different books, and that started my confusion, right? It's like, dang, right? I know I need to do something. This book tells me one thing, another book tells me another thing, keto, Mediterranean, Atkins, all of that, low carb, high carb, vegetarian, whatever, right? So it's just like all this information overload, conflicting information. How do we figure it out? And that's what I want to do in this episode, Jim. I just want to cut through the fog. Let's get to basic principles of healthy eating, what a good sustainable exercise program looks like. Maybe cover some of the mistakes that we made that we wish we would have known about starting out. Like that, I guess that's my goal, right? I wish this was the video that I had before I walked down into my basement and ran into all my mom's fad diet books, right?
Yeah.
Saved me all that time. So,
and my own views on some of this have recently kind of made an evolutionary turn in that, or at least they become open questions somewhere that they weren't. Even since like I did a blog not too long ago on kind of like basic rules for fitness stuff, and there I had pressed really hard, like the absolute 100% key is diet, right? And I'm not sure I've changed my mind about this, but I think it's become more complicated. So I was talking to my physician, who's a very good friend of mine too. We were like meeting socially, and he had mentioned he had seen some recent research that had been done showing comparisons between people who are just exercising versus just dieting. Okay. Like long range studies, and the just exercisers in terms of longevity, like did much better than just dieters. Right. Okay. Now there's the just, okay. I mean, you shouldn't be just doing one or the other. Right. But for me, I've always been like, cause nothing really changed for me till I got my diet straight. And I'd always been an athlete. I'd been working out like a champ. Right. It was getting diet straight, but that's because that was like my particular pitfall. Right. But just in light of some of these things, I think now I would say, okay, step one, let's just leave the diet aside for a sec and let's just start exercising. Let's find an exercise we can do and get that going. Because that may be the more important point for your longevity. And I think you and I think we both saw this paper. I can't remember. It was it was Nature or something like that about in terms of like COVID outcomes, right? Okay, like obesity was a problem, obviously.
Thanks for just killing this video with the algorithm, Jim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, but then when they got into the obesity, it wasn't really obesity. When they adjusted for sedentary versus non-sedentary in the outcome, it was if people who were just doing like the minimal, like 3 20-minute, cardio walks a week, like kicked butt in terms of good outcome.
Yeah.
So I hope I didn't really mess the.
No. This is really good.
Yeah. All right. So it's like, so I guess what I'm getting at is like, what could make a big difference for your health is a lot less than you think it is. It's a lot less than you think it is. Yeah.
So let's get so for me it's a both and, not an either or. People go back.
And I'm with you 100% on that.
On the diet or exercise. Yeah. In terms of body composition, it is hard to out exercise a bad diet, right? Unless you're like Michael Phelps and you can eat whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
But most
smoke whatever you want if you're Michael Phelps.
Apparently, right? But this actually makes sense when you think about it. From your own experience, right? It's like, what does exercise do to you? Well, it increases your energy. It increases your motivation. You start to feel better, right? You start to sleep better. And so there's this great complementarity that to me, it's sort of a package deal, right? When you start working out and you start feeling your strength improve and your muscles get tighter, right? This encourages you and motivates you to improve other areas, or at least helps you to better adhere to the dietary regimen as well. So I always think that you're going to improve your chances of success and sustainability by taking the both and approach rather than the either or approach, right? And of course, there's the metabolic considerations. Like if you are strength training, if you're resistance training, you're exercising, then you're just, you're going to, especially with the strength training and the resistance training, you're going to kind of just burn more automatically.
Yes.
Just because muscle is metabolically expensive, and then you're not just trying to constantly, just sort of reduce calorically with the diet all the time as well. So there's just a lot of good reasons, sort of square one, that if you're going to start out on a healthy lifestyle, it should be both and. Let's get the nutrition and the fitness in place at the same time, right?
And let me introduce a principle I think that ties those together. In a way. Okay. Or makes them so that they're not at odds with each other. Okay. So, okay. If you've gotten yourself in a position where you're like both of us were, where you are like dangerously obese. Okay. We're not talking just, I'd like to lose 5 pounds so I can just, really see the abs at the beach next summer. But like you're unhealthy because you've eaten yourself and into this situation. Right. Your relationship to food is sideways. Okay. You've got a weird reward system going on psychologically. Okay. And I think as long as food is like your big reward, okay, you're going to undo your workouts, right? Because you're going to do that thing where, hey man, I just did 200 kettlebell swings, I just ran 5 miles, so I can like go ahead and have that pizza and the ice cream now. Like you're still like, you're used to rewarding yourself, or you're used to getting your emotional rewards from food. As long as you're doing that, you are gonna circumvent what you're trying to do. You're gonna undermine your own efforts, right? So how you do that, I don't know. Like you might need some help with that. Okay.
Dude, well, that's a really good point. It's like sometimes your solutions to your health issues might not be in the gym or in the kitchen. It might be with a social worker. It might be with a therapist. So I'm not saying that's definitely the case, but like, considering the whole human person, how complex we are, you might want to keep those options open. Okay, honestly,
and because we're not talking about I need to lose 10 pounds. Like in my case, I had to lose over 100, man. It's not like I didn't know that for years, but I continued to do things I knew were self-destructive to me. Okay, and did them again and again, and that self-destructiveness was built into my sense of reward and like emotional comfort and all that. That is not just like I have to change my diet. There's something internally that has to change. There's, you know what I mean? So whether it's like you're going to work with a therapist, you're going to, in my case, have a really good wife or something, but you've got to
flagellate something.
Yeah. Right? Something's got to happen, because I don't think people end up like dangerously obese just because, they've been exposed to too many Oreos. Right. That there's something else going on here. There's something internal going on here that has to be addressed and transformed. Right. And worked on. Right. And otherwise, I think you're going to be at odds. You're going to work out really hard, and then you're going to reward yourself for the food. Right. And then you're going to know you've like undermined this. Right. Yeah. And you're going to be in this bad cycle. So I think you have to address the inner demon. I really think.
Excellent. Yeah. So I want to bracket that, and I want to come back to that, because I want to focus on, let's get the general principles down. Like what do we really know with at least a high degree of confidence? We'll start with eating, and then we'll
step one, know thyself, but then put that aside. Yeah.
Then put that aside. Right. So here's what I've learned over many, many years of research and self-experimentation and working with countless people on this stuff, right? Is that when it comes to diets, here's the important thing. Many diets can and have been shown to work, even though they're very different, right? So you have studies comparing high carb, low carb, all sorts of different diets, and you have good evidence to show that they can all produce very positive outcomes. And so this immediately invites the question of, well, why is that, right? Why is that, right? And I think the answer to this is when people succeed with a dietary protocol, they share certain principles in common. Certain themes that have come out in the research that we can call hinge factors. And it's these hinge factors that you need to focus on. And then how you achieve them, whether it's through a Mediterranean diet or a keto diet or whatever, we can kind of leave those options open. And
Yeah.
I think it's good too, because I want to encourage people to kind of tailor the approach that works for them. Like Jim, low carb is really great for you. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like a moderate carb guy. I have clients that do really well on higher carbs as well.
Yeah.
So this is,
and just think of just body type though, how different we are.
yes. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Right.
we are.
So it makes sense. Like, like our metabolisms are clearly not running on the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So what are some of these principles that we see in the research? There's a number, right? That good, successful, sort of healthy eating principles that will help with body composition and long-term health have certain key factors, right? One is protein intake, getting protein up. Getting protein up makes magic things happen. So if people are taking notes, this is where you want to start putting down. Get your protein up, right? Anywhere between 0.5 to 1 grams of lean protein per day, I think, is a good general target for people, right? Get your protein up. If you're like going strict keto, that might be an exception or difference, because too much protein can throw you out of keto. But we're just going to assume that people aren't doing strict keto from the start. So protein up is a good thing. Number 2 is eating foods that are, relatively close to nature, sort of unprocessed in the general sense that we mean, that they're not hyper palatable. So avoiding hyper palatable foods. These, whatever that concoction was that you described at Sonic, Jim, that is a hyper palatable food.
The jalapeno chili cheese tater tots. Right. No, that's not a part of a healthy life.
Anything, the way I describe it is anything that answers to the slogan, you can't eat just one. That's a hyper palatable
exactly.
Food, right? Yeah. Fatty, greasy, sweet, that stuff. Pretty much the standard American diet, right?
And if you do eat just one, you're not going to sleep that night.
Yeah, right. So getting protein up, greatly limiting or even eliminating these hyperpalatable foods are really important, right? And some way of both constraining, and I think this is really important, fluctuating or varying your caloric intake, right?
Yeah,
so what we find in the research, and there's really good new research on this, is that yes, calories obviously matter. There's different ways to control calories, but you're better off if you actually have calorie swings, right? So rather than just trying to depress calories in a straight line, which often causes people to crash and burn out, you're better off having periodization in your nutrition, meaning that you have some days that are lower calories, some days where you kind of boost the calories, and this has positive effects for your metabolism, your hormones, and long-term sustainability. So those would be like the 3 dietary principles that I would say. Square one, if you're going to focus on 3 things in the kitchen: get your lean protein up, get the hyperpalatable foods out. So that means, replace them with vegetables and healthy fats and nuts and stuff like that. And then number 3 is make sure that you have a way of constraining calories, which the first 2 things will do automatically, right? Getting protein up and getting the hyperpalatable foods out is going to bring calories down.
Yep.
But then follow some type of calorie cycle. And there's many ways you can do that. An easy way to do it is just some form of just intermittent fasting followed by strategic refeed days and stuff like that.
Yep.
So those are my
100%, 100%. Yeah. Without a doubt. 100%. All of that. Right. And, a couple comments on that. It was maybe a couple years ago now. There was an episode of the Joe Rogan show where he had on a British guy, I forget his name, who was an MMA coach, but he also produced that pro-vegan documentary that was on Netflix a couple years ago. I don't know if it was a very controversial documentary.
Was that the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger hopped into?
I'm not sure. It was a debate between this guy who's a vegan, but not for like moral reasons. He's a vegan because he thought it was just the best way to like advise his fighters to eat. Okay. Against another guy who was like a very kind of keto guy. Okay. And it became it's a fascinating episode of Rogan if you're into logic, because like the intricacy of the debate was really cool. But I know other people have other hobbies, right? But it just became obvious to me though, like they were talking about, very small marginal advantages between the 2 diets. Okay. And this actually comes up at one point in the episode where they're saying, but the important thing all the studies showed is whether you went like vegan or keto or paleo or Mediterranean or, what have you, you weren't eating the standard American diet, and therefore you were going to get great results.
Right.
Okay. Right. And like how they play out, and like which one's better long-term for cancer risk, all that stuff. Okay. That can be debated later, but they're all better on all fronts, health, longevity, performance, than the standard American diet, the SAD, right? Okay. Yeah. I think that's an important thing to know. Okay. So like what exact diet you take matters very, very little for what most of us need. If you're looking to like, beat Khabib in an MMA fight, yeah, then maybe like that 1% difference is going to make a difference. Like, good luck, right? Or if you're looking, you know what I mean? Or if you're looking to look like a model or something, okay, fine. But for the most of us, it's really picking something you're actually going to pull off, and that's not the standard American diet.
That's right. That's right. And this is
Yeah.
why I want to sort of leave those
Yeah.
options open, because I would say I eat, what's the closest way to sort of Mediterranean-ish, I would say, is
Yeah.
a good description of the way I eat, with combinations of intermittent fasting and strategic meal replacements. And strategic meal replacements are one of those dietary strategies that actually really stands out in the research as being superior in
Yeah.
the sense, and it sort of makes sense. So by a strategic meal replacement, we mean that throughout the week, you swap in something for a standard meal.
Yeah.
So instead of your whatever you would have for breakfast, you have a protein shake, for example, right? And the idea here is that it helps to accomplish a number of things. Helps get calories down, satiety up, protein up, and if you're putting good fruits and vegetables in there, you're still going to get all the micronutrients and stuff. So like, kind of makes sense that something like that would work. It's also convenient, affordable, so it's very low barriers to entry. So I do that. I mean, my first meal today was a shake. I probably won't even eat anymore again until dinner at this point, and then my wife does all the cooking, and it's always just sort of Mediterranean paleo-ish. I would describe it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and as you know, I don't like to say keto-ish, because a lot of people say I'm keto, but like I have ice cream a couple days a week. No. when I say keto-ish, I just mean I'm not like checking my ketones, right?
Yeah. You can. It makes sense to say you're Mediterranean or paleo-ish. It doesn't really make sense to say you're keto-ish, right?
Yeah. Okay. But I remember I started to go back to the GRE again, but Dr. Rhonda was on Rogan a couple weeks ago, and she had, like, after a long time, finally had been trying keto. And she's like, she doesn't think 90% of the people who think they're in ketosis actually are in ketosis, right? She's like, because she's, she's a scientist, and she went down the rabbit hole, and she's been checking herself, and she's like, man, I eat too much spinach, I knock myself out of ketosis.
It's hard, man. So I've done keto a number of times, and I had the T strips, and the thing that kept knocking me, this is why I kind of bracketed off keto, was I kept having too much protein.
Yeah.
And if you have too much protein, you're not going to get into ketosis, because your body will turn that protein and of course into the fuel source that will keep you out of ketosis, right? So you actually have to be low protein on keto. So keto is kind of the exception here, but that's okay. Exceptions don't negate general rules, right?
And so for me, I'll say I'm keto-ish, because I'm not sure whether or not the literal like box of spinach I'll have with my first meal later is going to knock me out of ketosis or not, right? I'm just not checking, right? But basically, though, what I do is I fast. Okay, as you know, I'm a big faster, right? It's not a question of when I'll eat on any given day; it's whether I will, right? Yeah. Okay, and most days I do, but I do have one 24-hour fast every week. But basically, by going keto in whatever sense I have, it's just the standard American diet is not available to me. Okay. And it's also made it so that I have to, and I've had to make the habit of passing up feeding opportunities. Right. So, so I just, if I'm committed, I'm only eating off this list, and I go into a restaurant and they only have stuff on that list that I'm with Jocko, I don't have to eat. Right. And so what happens, and this is going to your point, is I'm forced into a kind of a calorie deficit for a little while there. Right. And so now and then I'm going to go later and like eat like a hog. Right. Okay. Or maybe the next day I'll feel I'm hungry because I ate less than I normally did the other day, because I skipped a meal I normally don't skip. And so then the calories are they're on a roller coaster in a good way. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
It works out much the same way. And so one of the things I have found, I picked this up from a guy named Paul Rurke, who wrote a very, very good, one of my absolute favorite fitness nutrition books called Core Strength. What he always advised his people to do is, when they're losing weight, to try to go to bed hungry. Okay. Not like I can't sleep, I'm so hungry, but just enough that like that breakfast doesn't sound like a good idea. You probably ate too much, right? Like so you're kind of looking forward to waking up tomorrow. And for me, it's like having my cup of coffee, right? But in general, like if you're not looking forward to the next day's meal when you go to bed, he's like, yeah, you probably ate too much that day.
Yes.
And to kind of strive to go to bed just kind of like a little bit hungry every day, right?
Yeah. And this, Jim, I think this is a good connection to the point you made earlier about knowing yourself and knowing your sort of, reward triggers and all that. I think people need to be really intentional about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to fasting, don't think about it just as a way to lose weight. Think about it as a way to grow in virtue. Think about it as a way to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Right.
You're going to learn to really kind of sit with that hunger, right? And realize that I don't need to have a slice of cheesecake after I fast every time, right? And you need to make that intentional mindset shift, right? And make it motivating. Like study great virtuous figures that fast all the time. Be like, I want to be like them, right? So the point I'm making is make it really intentional and not just about weight loss, but also about virtue. And that will, I think, make you more excited to do something like this. I mean, listen to our chat about the Republic, and we'll talk. Plato, Socrates will tell you all about temperance and self-mastery and all that sort of thing, right?
And let me say this: I'm a lifelong athlete, and I'm not like an elite athlete or anything like that, but I've done some things athletically. Okay, so I won a blue belt world championship in jiu-jitsu. I was the ABC scholar athlete football player of the week when I was in college, right? I mean, like featured on like the game of the week for that. I did some stuff athletically, right? Won some big power meets, all that. But I tell you what, the thing I am most proud of, right, and on the physical side of things for me is losing that weight.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely, it was the hardest thing, and it is the thing I am most proud of, right? And I think just people should see this as not as this like necessary evil. No, it's just this great achievement. Right. It's this great, it might be the great achievement of your physical life, right? To lose that weight. Right.
And there's such awesome carryover to that. I mean, there's a lot of like good philosophical and spiritual tie in there too. I mean, so I guess the kind of cool thing about being Catholic is we have this liturgical calendar that offers so many opportunities to just not eat, right? And to tie it into deeper, more significant reasons too. So we can bracket that up, but it's
but I think this is a good theme. But I think another important thing is ties in what you were saying is, okay, so whether you're doing keto or paleo or vegan or whatever, you are making decisions about what you eat, right? Like you're doing so it's not only are you going to have to like pass up feeding opportunities, but you're going to have to make decisions. Like you're not going to like, or at least at a meta level, like for like me, you've just like rigged your environment, but you did make a decision about how you're going to rig your environment, right? And so like I think just you're a better human being the more your life is a consequence of your agency, and it's not a consequence of fate. Okay,
that's great. Yeah,
right. Like it's better to be good than it is to be lucky, right? And until you take this up explicitly, you're at best lucky and maybe unlucky, right? And so why accept this? Like, why accept this like crap that is in your environment when you can make a decision and take control and not be a victim of fate?
Dude,
right?
Spot on. And that's one of the other principles too, is you have to avoid contamination. You have to be very mindful of your environment. And by that, I mean, not just having crap around the house that is going to be very tempting, like literally just clean that stuff out. But also people, the type of people you're around with, right? Like people know that other people can and do sabotage. So, there's going to have to be some like real general house cleaning when it comes to this, right? And the types of people, I mean, there's that cliche that like you become the average or whatever, the 5 people you hang around with. That's true, man. That really like unless you're like so well morally formed through many years, like generally, especially when you're young, the environment you're in is going to deeply influence you in your habits, right? So if you want to be healthier, you want to be, wiser, hang around with healthier, wiser people, right? People who like working out, eating healthier. Doesn't mean you can't ever have fun or whatever, but your environment is it's really hard to be constantly working against your environment. You need your environment to be working with you and supporting you in every way possible.
And so, okay, as you know, I can be a bit of a hard ass, right? And so, when I first quit drinking, all right, I used to like, I would go to a party and like someone gave me a beer. I didn't want to make a thing. So I just like hold the beer and maybe have a sip or something like that. And finally I got like, well, why am I doing that? That's just stupid. You know what I mean? I would just say, no, thanks. Can I have a cup of coffee or something like that? And there's always, oh, come on, have a beer. Come on, Jim, have a beer. And I finally got to be like,
have a punch.
Yeah, no, I kind of go, so why does it bother you I'm not drinking?
Yeah.
Like why do you want me to drink?
Am I not interesting enough for you?
Yeah, no, I'd be like, why is it so important to you that I drink? maybe you need to talk about your drinking with me.
Right.
And I would just like totally call it out. And then when I went with the keto thing, I would get this all the time. Oh, just have a slice of bread. Right. You know, and I'm like, no, it's not my thing. Hey, I want you to enjoy that. You know, that's great. I'm not here to judge you, you know, stuff like that, but you're fat. Anyway, so,
right. Yeah. But dude, there's like a sick, there is this, like, let's be honest.
And
on
now,
the podcast, there's a sick psychology where people kind of like misery loves company type of thing.
And now I'll just say, hey, why does it bother you that I'm not eating that?
Yeah.
Why does it bother you that I'm not eating it?
Is it because it's bothering you that you are eating it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if so, let's talk about it.
The same thing I would say about people drinking it. Is your drinking bothering you? Because it seems like it's my not drinking is bothering you, right? You know, so is your eating bothering you? So I'll just call it out. I just won't.
Yeah.
You
and
know
this
what I mean?
party just got real awkward.
It got real awkward, but I'm pretty comfortable with awkward. Right?
I think it's great, man. And look, who's going to deny that? You have to be a fool to deny that goes on, right?
And maybe you should just let me enjoy the nuts I brought, right? Okay, we'll never just be easier.
You had to piss Jim off. You had to do it, right?
Why you got to do that, right? Like, of all the people you can mess with, why me on this one, right? You knew where you were going.
Yeah, right? I'm glad you brought that up. This is great. All right, so I think we've got a good summary on this sort of groundwork of nutrition. Now, again, how people want to explore that, we've got a million different plans that you need to get there, but those are the principles that need to be in place. Those are the principles that I wish I knew starting out, right?
Yeah.
Protein, fasting, caloric control, caloric swings, environment, eliminate the hyperpalatable foods. You stick, if you can just check those boxes on a more frequent than not basis, good things are going to happen. I promise you, right? Good things are going to happen. All right, let's talk. All right, let me give a quick outline, I guess, of the fitness principles, and then Jim will get your comments. You can kind of fill it in. I think it's really important to be a fitness generalist, right? So if you're looking for overall health, and so here, let's make a distinction, right? Health and fitness, they're not the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be important. Fitness is the ability to complete a task.
Health fit for what?
Health is like something like the ideal interplay of the bodily systems and organs and stuff like that, right?
Justice to the body.
Distance from death, right? Something like that, right?
Exactly.
You can be very fit and extremely unhealthy. You can also be quite healthy and very unfit at a number of things, right? So the way I think about fitness, and this is what I preach to my audience, is like whatever we're doing fitness-wise should contribute to your health, or at least it should not be taking away from it, right? That's my general philosophy, right? Now, if you're a highly competitive athlete, a specialist, probably what you do fitness-wise will take away from your health, and that's just a cost, right? And that's a cost that some people are willing to pay, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're trying to talk about an approach to fitness that is itself going to be supportive of your overall health and well-being. So that's what I'm starting with, right? And from that perspective, I think what we want to do is approach fitness as a generalist and understand that there's a number of different sort of qualities that we should be trying to train and practice and participate in. The first thing, of course, would be resistance training and strength training. I think that as a general rule, somewhere between 2 to 4 days of good, high quality strength and resistance training is going to do people a lot of good. This could just be basic stuff, big fundamental movement patterns, pushing, pulling, hinging, squatting, working against resistance, anywhere between 3 to 5 sets, I think between 6 to 12 reps-ish. Again, we can talk about, hyper specifics as we move along, but just big picture stuff, right? Gonna be good there, right? I think that you should try to get at least 30 minutes of cardiovascular activity every single day.
Yes.
I think it's useful at least. So I'm kind of setting a floor here. So we can think floors and ceilings. So these are the floors: 2 to 4 days of resistance training, 30 minutes of cardio activity every day. I think it's great if you mix that up. Walking is always a good option, but maybe you want to run, maybe you want to do some recreational sports, maybe you want to learn or practice a martial art, whatever, right? All good stuff. And then I think you should do something every single day. This again doesn't have to be long. It could be just a 10 to 20 minute routine in the morning, where you really practice and focus on your mobility, your joint health, all that sort of stuff, right? So that's kind of my way of thinking about exercise. At least, let me summarize it again: 2 to 4 days of you do your traditional resistance training. Again, how you do that, we can leave open. Kettlebells, barbells, body weight, mixed modality, up to you. Lots of good ways to achieve it. 30 minutes of cardio every single day, whatever that is, we can leave that open. And then, some type of daily movement or mobility routine, preferably do it, earlier rather than later. So that's kind of my general structure. Jim, please chime in. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% behind all of that. I might add 2 things though.
Let's do it.
I want some of that to go on outdoors.
Yeah, especially like the cardio stuff would be a great. Yep.
And I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm not compared to give a damn about the winter. Okay. So, all right. So yeah, I want some of that outdoors. I want you outside for mental health reasons, right?
Yes, agreed.
In addition to the mobility work, I want meditation or prayer or something. Okay. I want you working on some kind of like internal wellness of some sort, whatever your jam is there. And we have our own take on that. Right. Okay. But I want you working on something like that too. I think that is just as important to the piece to this whole thing because of the issues about stress and anxiety, and they all feed on this and reward all that. I want some kind of like what therapists call self-care now. Right. In addition to the exercise piece. I want some kind of like prayer or meditation going on, and I'd want some of this to go on outdoors, right? Reconnect with the real world.
Agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
And something that just like really minimal, like what I've been advising some people lately is, look, just once you go for a walk, I would like this to be at least 30 minutes, right? If you can get me 60, that would just be awesome. Right. And I want you, say, if it's 30 minutes, I want you 3 times just to stop and do a hard set of push-ups and a hard set of squats during that walk. And then that's it. And just start with that 30 minutes a day. Just do that. Right.
Dude, I mean, so my routine yesterday with the kids, we had a great session yesterday because we were out front. I was putting them in arm bars in between sets, which is always fun, right?
Yeah.
And I'll take advantage of it when I can, right?
And to quote my son, Cormac, your tap doesn't count.
Yeah. So we just did. So, I mean, this is a great, if you have kids, get them working out with you. Just do it, right? Absolutely. Get them doing martial arts with you. We were doing push-ups, we were doing squats. We had the ab wheel out, had the kids doing the ab wheel. And like, here's the thing, right? You can structure things and you can get really specific, but you can also just practice. That's it, right? Like, hey kids, we're just going to do sets of push-ups, sets of squats, ab wheel. We're going to wrestle. And then we're going to run, and we just mix up some sprinting and running and cardio. It was, good 60-minute session. Everybody had fun, great sweat. We had the cardio, we had the resistance training. My abs are actually pretty dang sore from all that ab wheel yesterday. Yeah. Well, and we just had fun. They had fun with that. So it was kind of wins all around, right?
Yeah, exactly. And those arm bars will hit your abs too, pretty seriously. Yeah.
And we did it all outside.
Outside, yeah. And I just think, and this is, I think, part of your point, Pat, is the exercise piece is so much less than people think it has to be. Right. This is right. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why on my YouTube channel, I took down some of the really crazy like workout videos I had of myself when I was doing the tactical barbell stuff. Cause I'm like, I don't want people to think to like just get in decent shape, you've got to like do this like death wish kind of workout. You don't. If you just did 30 to 60 minutes every day of the week of walking with some calisthenics in it, you'd probably, and you ate one of these diets, you'd probably be fine.
Good things are going to happen.
Another thing. Now, this would not be like minimal buy-in, but I think this is implicit what you're saying. Though, it can be like next level. I think long term to really sustain exercise, it's got to become something you want to get good at, right? Whether it's like I want to get really good at, the kettlebell press, or I want to get really good at jiu-jitsu, or I want to get really good at like triathlons or something like that. I think
or maybe I want to get certified and help other people. That could be a great source of
that's a great thing, right? For fun and profit, right? And so I do think that long term, like serious people need to have things in their life that they can get serious about, right? And once you've kind of checked the health box, you're going to look for something else, but we want that something else to be still checking the health box. So then I think you need to find something you want to get good at.
Yeah. So whether it's a martial art or just wanting to help other people. I mean, that was a great source of motivation for me when I first got into kettlebells. Well, I got into kettlebells because I was already into martial arts, right? Then I fell in love with the kettlebells themselves. But then when I was in college, I just wanted to start as a way to pay the bills, just start training people. Yeah. And that made me learn more, made me become more excited because I wanted to get really good at it for something that kind of extended beyond just how I looked at any given moment,
exactly. Right? One of the listeners put a comment on thanking me for recommending the steel mace, and you're welcome. And I said one of the things about the steel mace for me was it was just this like weird thing that I had to build a skill to learn how to use to incorporate that into my workouts, and
Mhm.
so we're not saying you got to like go out there and, take an MMA fight, right? Though by all means, man, right?
Yeah.
But what to say that like, make this become more than just the mirror, make this become more than just, your health, which is no small matter, but and make it something that like is truly going to make you great, right? It's going to be a part of excellence in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to sustain you on it. Yeah.
Excellent. So I don't want to really get into any more specifics now because, Jim, we've had a million talks on that before, and we both have tons of programs. So let me just say, if this is where you've wound up at the flagship beginner episode, these are the principles we want you to absorb. These are this is the framework we want you to have for success. Now, how you fill that in, tons of options. I've got a free program on YouTube called the Get Strong program. If you just search for it, a ton of people have done that, and they've great results. Jim and I also have many other programs as well. Jim, let the people know where they can check out some of your programs.
JD Madden /fitness, / right? Yeah, no, yeah.
/ right?
Forward slash. Go to JD Madden. You'll find the fitness link.
Yeah.
JDMadden.com, and find that there. And this makes me think I should probably have up just a like a blog post. Minimal. Here's the minimal program.
Right? Yeah. And let me mention two other things. First is we have to thank our sponsor, Inverted Gear. So if you want to start using kettlebells, which Jim and I love, or maces or clubs or jujitsu, Inverted Gear's got it all. They are our very good sponsor, great family-owned company, and you get 15% off. And it supports the show if you use this link right here, invertedgear.com/discount/PatFlynn15. That's invertedgear.com/discounts/PatFlynn15.
If you're in Nelson's vicinity in Pennsylvania, he's going to be opening a gym.
Sweet. And they're great kettlebells, great clubs, just awesome companies. So yeah, if you like what we're doing, if this is helpful and you need equipment, please consider using Inverted Gear. And this might be gone by the time people see the replay of this episode, but for right now, I've got a sale of workouts going on. We've taken sort of the best of all of our strong on kettlebell workouts from year one. We've made an awesome bundle pack out of it.
Cool.
And you can grab that at chroniclesofstrength.com/best-of-year-one. So if you just want some like pull out of a hat, awesome kettlebell workouts, you can plug into these frameworks Jim and I are talking about, head over there, check it out, and support the show. Jim, should we? Yeah,
I did one of your kettlebell one workouts the other day.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that was a fun program. Mm-hmm.
It was I did it with double because I was in a hurry, right? You strict press for 5 and then do jerks for 5 to 8 and then do as many push-ups you can in 20 seconds and just run that through. I think for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. There were some dark thoughts thought about Pat Flynn.
You wouldn't be the first person to say that.
Yeah, some dark thoughts.
So we do have to do a Play-Doh stream here, but we've got time for a couple questions. Jim, should we take some questions? All right, gentle listeners. I see that there's some good stuff here. So let's
I see IJ's showing up for us here.
Oh, our man IJ is here.
Yeah. He's got a question. What's your favorite protein? I'm going back into bulking, but I'm wondering if there are better alternatives to 10 eggs a day. I'm an eggs guy, right? I think steak's good too, but it's expensive, right? And so in terms of bang for the buck, I like the eggs. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the my friend Dr. Spencer always had and he's a real built dude, and he always had like a cool little hack for either losing weight or gaining weight. And his hack was this: if you want to lose weight, replace some number of meals throughout your week with a shake. If you want to gain weight, supplement some number of meals per week with a shake, right?
Yeah.
And think about it like this. Put the water on top of the rock. So eat your meal first, then have the shake. If you have the shake first, you'll blunt your hunger and you won't eat all the meal. So if you're trying to put on weight, get the calorically dense meal in first, and then put the protein down on top of it. Yeah.
But I'll say this, IJ, given that video you sent me the other day, I don't think you need to bulk at all. You're plenty dangerous at your current weight. So
yeah, good stuff. All right, let's scroll up here, see what we have. Herb says, I know that you don't recommend doing it anymore, but how did you go about getting a one-arm gym? Yeah, so Jim, it's funny how you said you took some of your old videos because you thought it might give the the wrong impression. Well, in my original book, Paleo Workouts for Dummies, I have me doing one arm chin-ups in there because I used to like to do circus tricks. But it gave me horrible elbow tendonitis, so I don't really recommend it because it's one of those things that, like, okay, you can do a one arm chin-up, but it doesn't really help anything else, and it probably hurts, right? Good example of fitness not lending to health, right? So I still have some minor lingering elbow issues from that. So take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt. What did I use? First off, I got savagely strong at pull-ups, which I still am. A lot of weighted pull-ups. Then a lot of isometrics, negatives, and band work. That's the secret, right? Isometrics, holding different positions, negatives, partial reps, and band work. And then lots of reps, lots of frequency, and you'll get there. Yeah. But that's not a detailed plan. It's just a general strategy.
And to note how your elbow's doing now, though.
Yeah, no, now they're a lot better. But I'll tell you, at the worst of it, they hurt so bad I couldn't even open the refrigerator. Right, that's how bad that elbow tendonitis got from that. Yeah, it was really nasty stuff. And as anybody who's had joint issues, especially elbow tendonitis, will tell you, it's one of those things that just takes forever to recover from, forever. Yeah. So it's I don't recommend it. Next question says, Jim, do you worry about your posture getting bad from grappling? And if so, how much?
I do not. I worry about my posture getting bad from hunching over books for 12 hours a day. Right.
Doing podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing podcasts and just literally, just spending so much of my life like this hunched over books. So I work on it. I have a morning mobility I work on. I consciously think about my posture, when I'm sitting or I'm walking around. I think the clubs and the maces, because if you're doing them properly, you have to pack everything back properly. I think they're helpful with it. But yeah, I worry about it, not because of grappling, but just because generally, how I spend the majority of hours of my day is in study, right? And it's not necessarily a good postural position. Yeah.
Right. All right. Let's make sure we get some people in here who haven't had a chance yet. Ronan says, hi, Pat and Jim. Is it okay to attach change plates 2-3 pounds using chains to make kettlebells a specific weight and micro load? I don't really see why you would do that. I mean, I think for some exercises that's going to be really weird and awkward. And I would say, instead of focusing on microloading is a good and bad thing, right? But it's nice to have it in certain instances, but it also causes people to be less creative and less intelligent with programming in general, right? There's other variables we can use in programming: frequency, density, volume, that can help us get stronger to make kind of larger jumps. So I kind of miss the old days when kettlebells just used to come in really big jumps, because it would force you to get a lot more creative of, how am I going to get stronger? Like, how am I going to go from a 24 to a 32? Right. Yeah. And that's that's a big jump, right? I most of the time be all right, at least put a 28 in there. But in the old days, you just had to figure that out. Right.
When I was your age, we had a 16 and a 40, and that was it.
That's it. And there's something to be said about that, because it forces you to think hard and to practice in creative ways. So, okay, maybe I'm going to practice different pressing variations. I'm going to use eccentrics. I'm going to use partial reps. I'm going to use mixtures of explosive and static exercises and overloads and all sorts of other stuff that can really help you make those jumps that I think are beneficial in their own right. Whereas if you just constantly have microloading, I think you're just going to stall out anyways. Yeah. And so I don't recommend microloading in most cases. I think it for highly specialized situations, it can make sense. But for most people, I like accepting the challenge of having to program in such a way that it will cause you to make greater jumps. Yeah.
I've never played with it. And you know me, I'm before we bench press, have we gotten all we can out of the push up, right? Before we micro load, we gotten everything we can out of just the kettlebell. Yeah.
All right. Let's take one more here. Jim, why don't you pick one?
Oh, let's see here.
Lots of good stuff. Sorry we won't be able to get through all the questions, guys, but we just have to switch over to this next stream here in a minute.
Let's see.
There are lots of good questions. We will do a dedicated Q&A next week to take more. Brendan just wants to know, are the traditional days to fast for Catholics Tuesdays and Fridays? For me and mine, it's Wednesdays and Fridays. So I'm fasting today, and Fridays we don't eat any meat, and I fast. So I don't really have many meals, and those meals.
I've not heard of the Tuesday thing. I'll admit to being a bad cradle Catholic, I only abstain from meat during Lent. So,
Yeah. So we fast Wednesdays and Fridays on throughout the year. I do omit meat on Fridays.
good for you.
Well,
Good for you. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times my fast day will be Friday just because that's where it falls, right? But I'd be lying if I said I had made a very intentional decision about that. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Andrew says, so I'm a swimmer. Have you ever heard someone combine that form of cardio with kettlebells? I've been doing it for about 2 months. Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. I've seen people get out of the pool and like do swings and stuff.
Pop up and do swings. Yeah, I mean, might be.
But let's watch our footing and let's really be careful with that grip, people. Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things. Like, do you have to do it like that? You could. So I'm not against it, but you could also just keep the sessions separate. Yeah. But swimming is a great complement to kettlebell training and a form of conditioning in general. So I'm a fan. Yeah.
My daughter Martha's a very serious competitive swimmer, and she, of course, it's hard anytime you're dealing with like a 16 or 17-year-old athlete. Like everything works, right? I mean, because they're just growing, right? But it seems that like kettlebells, especially heavy two-handed explosive swings, really do carry over to her power on strokes like the butterfly. So
right, awesome. All right, good stuff. We're going to shut off here. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back at 1:30 to talk Plato's The Republic. So we did the body. Now we're going to switch over. We're going to do the mind. So, gentle listeners, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you in about like 10 minutes. Sound good? Adios.
Thank you, folks.